There is a cognitive bias which is called anchoring, and it's often paired as anchoring and adjustment. It relates to how our brains process information, how they lock on to the first piece of information as a foundation point, and then adjust the position as new information is added to the picture. However, the critical factor is that the first piece of information given is given far more weight than later pieces of information. This bias appears to be slightly more pronounced in children than in adults, but even the best experts in a particular field can easily fall into anchoring bias. As an example, might be say 1,000 sweets in a particular jar, and if you show the jar to two different sets of children, into the first set you ask them two questions. Do they think there is more or less than 100 sweets in the jar? And how many sweets do they think are in the jar? The second group, you ask them to think there is more or less than 10,000 sweets in the jar, and how many sweets are there in the jar. Now, both groups of children will correctly get the first question right. Some discussion among the group will move the number towards 1,000 sweets. However, the number in the initial question acts as an anchoring point, and both groups won't adjust the estimation of the numbers of sweets enough to get to the number 1,000. So the group given the question about more or less than 100 sweets will undershoot the number of sweets in the jar and come up with less than 1,000 sweets in their final answer. The group that was given the question of more or less than 10,000 sweets will overshoot the number of sweets in the jar and come up with more than 1,000 sweets as their final answer. Now, whilst this might be a fun test to carry out with children, it really does have some real-world consequences. One of the most common forms involves negotiations relating to money. Two of the most common being selling and wage negotiations. So, in selling, for instance, a second-hand car dealer may offer you $3,000 for your old car, and after some negotiation, you finally settle on a price of $3,500. However, the initial $3,000 is the anchor point. The car may actually be worth far more than $3,500. The dealer may even be willing to pay more than that amount. So, for instance, if you'd offered to sell the car to the dealer for $5,500, you may eventually have settled on a price of $4,000 for the car, as the car dealer now has to adjust to your anchor point rather than you adjust to theirs. Anchoring is also fairly common in wage negotiations, where an employer may initially offer a rise of 2%, and a union or a negotiating group may ask for 10%, say. Eventually, both sides may settle for around a 5% pay rise. If, however, one of the parties can establish their anchor early on in negotiations, it may considerably alter the final deal. It may also change how the parties involved actually feel about the final settlement, whether they think it was fair or just. Other areas where anchoring could come into play would be legal matters, from the length of sentencing to compensation amounts. Alternatively, it might be in politics, with estimating the number of people in a particular group amongst the general population, or even portions of money the government spends in a particular area. On a lighter note, parents may be able to use anchoring bias when negotiating with their children, say the amount of pocket money the children get, or maybe the time the children go to bed. All of these areas and many others are easily subject to anchoring bias, but by being aware of it, you're going to be less susceptible